Welcome to my channel. I hope you like and subscribe, and thank you so much for watching. In today's tutorial, I'm going to show you how to knit step by step these little pants, leggings, or trousers for baby boys and girls between 3 and 6 months old. I made them to match the Sweet Elaria baby sweater. In the information box, I'll leave you the link to that tutorial. Now, the little pants, like I said, are for 3 to 6 months, but you can easily make them smaller or bigger from a newborn size and up to 2 to 3 year size. In the information box below, I'll go ahead and leave you some information on how you can easily make them smaller or bigger, so be sure to check that out. And as always, if you prefer a written pattern, check out my Etsy shop. I'll leave the link to my Etsy shop up here on the right hand side and in the information box below. Thank you so much for your support. Now, to make these baby pants along with the little sweater for the 3 to 6 month size, this is the yarn that I used. This is DK weight yarn, but you can also use any number 3 yarn or 8 ply. For the 3 to 6 month size, I used a total of 123 grams, which is about 278 meters or about 303 yards. Depending on the size that you make, you may need less or more. Okay, let's get started. Don't forget to subscribe and activate the notifications bell. Thank you so much for watching. To begin and knit the baby pants to match the Ilaria baby sweater, I'm going to be using these 4mm circular knitting needles. These are 16-inch long, and I'm using DK weight yarn. At the beginning of the video, I showed you the yarn that I'm using, and I told you how much yarn we're going to need for the size that we're making here in this tutorial. Now, if you need gauge information, you can always find that in the information box, and I always leave the finished measurements at the end of the tutorial. So here, to begin, the first thing that we need to do is cast on 96 stitches. I'm going to show you here how to cast on your stitches using the long tail cast on method. So with both needles like this, or with an extra needle like this, we're going to wrap the yarn around 20 times. We're going to measure the yarn first in order to have our long tails. So wrap the yarn around 20 times around both needles. So that's, let's see, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. There's enough yarn here for about 20 stitches. Double it up again. I have enough for about 40. Double it up again. We have enough for 60. Double it up again. We have enough for about 80 stitches. We need to cast on 96, so go ahead and double it up again. We have enough for about 100 stitches here. Add a little bit more. It's best to have some left over than to have to repeat this. Now, here, add a slip knot like this and insert both needles through this loop. This is the yarn that we just measured, and this here is coming from the skein. Now, open up the yarn like this, and we're going to go from left to right, and we're going to grab a loop. So beginning here, grab a loop. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and so on until you have 96 stitches. You can use any other method as well. I just happen to like the long tail cast on method because the first row is nice and loose and we don't want this to be too tight around the waist. So go ahead and finish casting on your stitches. I'll come back and show you what we need to do next. I finished casting on my stitches. I have 96 now. We're going to add an extra stitch. This stitch does not count. It's to join in the round with the invisible join. Now carefully remove that second needle. This is the last stitch and here's the first one. Now to join in the round using the invisible join method, you're going to bring this first stitch onto the right needle. Now bring that last stitch, the extra stitch, over that first stitch and drop it. Now pull the yarn and that stitch is going to close. Perfect. Now place a stitch marker to mark the beginning of the round. This stitch marker here is very important, so make sure you always have one here to mark the beginning of the row. So now we're going to start with the waistband, and we're going to make these little pins similar to these. The only difference here is that I'm going to make a shorter waistband I think I'll do about 14, 15 rows so that it looks like this. But if you want to make it where you make a longer waistband, you can add more rows. For this one here, I believe I added 25 rows. Let's see. 26 rows, but this is for a smaller size. This is for 0 to 3 months. So I'd say you can make 26 to 30 rows if you want to make a wider waistband. I'm only going to make 15 for mine. So here to begin row 1, we're going to knit 1, purl the next stitch, knit 1, purl 1, knit 1, purl 1, knit 1, purl 1. This is how you're going to continue for row 1 of the waistband. Knit 1, purl 1 all around. I'll meet you here at the end. I finished row 1. In this row we did knit 1, purled 1 all around. Pass your beginning of the row stitch marker. At the end of this row and at the end of each row from here on, you're always going to have 96 stitches. So here, to begin row 2 up to row 15, you're going to do the same thing. Knit 1, purl 1, knit 1, purl 1. Continue like this up to row 15. I'll come back and show you what we need to do next. I finished the waistband. I did a total of 15 rows. Now we're going to start on the body. So here for the body, all we're going to do is just knit every stitch all around. We're going to continue with the stockinette stitch in the round. Like this. When you finish the row, you're going to pass the stitch marker and then continue and knit all around. Right now, we have completed the waistband, so we're going to continue and work this part, and then we're going to make the gusset here in the center of the legs. So go ahead and continue like this and continue watching. You will see how many rows I'm going to do here for the body. And again, all we're going to do here is just knit all around. And at the end of each row, you're always going to have 96 stitches. I'm almost done with the body. I have done a total of 35 rows, including the 15 rows for the waistband. So far, we have a total of 50 rows. It's measuring about 17.5 centimeters, which is about 7 inches. Now we're going to start on the gusset. The gusset is a little triangle that we make here in between the legs to give it more room here around the hip area. So to do this here, we need to place some stitch markers. So here I have a total of 96 stitches. So from the beginning of the row stitch marker, count 22 stitches. We have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22. Place a stitch marker, count 4, place a stitch marker, and then here I have 44 stitches for one of the legs, then place a stitch marker, count 4 stitches, place a stitch marker, and then here you should be left with 22 stitches. So to start the gusset, I'm going to place my beginning of the row stitch marker, and I'm going to knit 22. "21, 22." Now pass the stitch marker. Now to increase here, we're going to make one right. So I'm going to lift up this bar that's between the last stitch that I knit and the next stitch. So lift this bar, put it onto the left needle from front to back like this, and knit this through the front. That's a make one right. Now knit 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Before you pass your stitch marker, make one left. So pick up this bar, put it onto the left needle from back to front, and knit this stitch here through the back. That's a make one left. So this increase here leans towards the left, this increase here leans towards the right. Now pass the stitch marker, knit 44. That's 1, 43, 44. Pass your stitch marker, make one right, pick up this bar, put it on top of the left needle from front to back, and knit this loop here through the front. That's a make one right. Now knit 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Before you pass your stitch marker, make one left. Pick up this bar, put it from back to front, and knit through the back. Pass the stitch marker, knit 22. 1, 21, 22. Now this completes row 1 of the gusset. At the end of this row, you should have a total of 100 stitches. In between the stitch markers here for the front and the back of the gusset, you should have 6 stitches. 2, 4, 6. So we increased 1 stitch here at the beginning and 1 at the end, and same thing here for this other side. Now for row 2 of the gusset, all you do is just knit all around, and at the end of this row, you're going to have 100 stitches. Here, let me show you what you need to do where we did the increases here for the gusset. There's nothing special, you just knit that stitch. Pass the stitch marker and knit that stitch, and so on. Continue all around for row 2 of the gusset. I'll come back and show you what we need to do next. I finished row 2 of the gusset. I have 100 stitches here. In this row, all I did was just knit all around. Now for row 3 of the gusset, we're going to knit 22 here. Pass the stitch marker, make one right, knit 6, make one left, knit through the back, pass the stitch marker. Now knit 44, pass the stitch marker, make one right, lift up the bar, put it onto the left needle from back to front, knit through the front, knit 6, make one left, knit through the back, pass the stitch marker, and knit 22. Here you're going to complete the 3rd row of the gusset. At the end of this row, you're going to have 104 stitches. Between the stitch markers here, we now have 8 stitches. 2, 4, 6, 8. After you finish this row, you're going to knit all around for row 4. At the end of row 4, you're going to have 104 stitches. So go ahead and finish row 4. I will come back and show you what we need to do next. I finished row 4. For row 4, I just knit all around, and at the end of row 4, I have a total of 104 stitches. Now for row 5 of the gusset, we're going to knit 22, pass the stitch marker, make one right, knit 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. make one left, pass the stitch marker. Now in between the stitch markers here you have 10 stitches. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Now you're going to continue and finish row 5. Here you're going to knit 44, then you're going to pass the stitch marker, make one right, knit 8, make one left, pass the stitch marker, and then finish with these last 22 stitches. At the end of row 5 of the gusset, you're going to have 108 stitches. Then you're going to continue with row 6. For row 6, you're going to knit all around, and at the end of row 6, you're going to have 108 stitches. I'm not going to show you this row because it's exactly how I did the front here, and I already showed you row 1 and 3 where we increased the gusset. So go ahead and finish these 2 rows. I will come back and show you what we need to do next. I finished row 5 and row 6. Row 5 was an increasing row, so at the end of row 5, I had a total of 108 stitches. And then for row 6, all I did was just knit all around, and I have 108 stitches for that row as well. Now for row 7, same thing. We're going to knit 22. Pass the stitch marker, make one right, now knit 10, there, make one left, pass the stitch marker. Now between the stitch markers here you should have 12 stitches. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. Now you're going to continue and knit 44, and when you come here to the other side, same thing. Pass the stitch marker, make one right, knit 10, make one left, pass the stitch marker, and then finish here with these last 22 stitches. So knit 22 here at the end. Now at the end of row 7, you're going to have a total of 112 stitches. Then you're going to continue with row 8. For row 8, you're just going to knit all around, and at the end of row 8, you're also going to have 112 stitches. So go ahead and finish these 2 rows. I'll come back and show you what we need to do next. I finished row 7 and row 8. Row 7 was an increasing row, so at the end of row 7, I had a total of 112 stitches. And then I did row 8. For row 8, I just knit all around, and I have a total of 112 stitches as well. Now for row 9, we're going to knit 22. Pass the stitch marker, make one right, knit 12. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Yes, 1, 12. Make one left, pass the stitch marker. Now you're just going to continue here and knit 44. When you come here to the other side, same thing. Pass the stitch marker, make one right, knit 12, make one left, and then finish here with these last 22 stitches. At the end of row 9, you're going to have 116 stitches, and then you're going to continue with row 10 where you just knit all around. So go ahead and finish these last 2 rows. I'll come back and show you what we need to do next. I finished rows 9 and 10. This completes the gusset. Now between the stitch markers here for the gusset, you should have 14 stitches. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14. At the end of row 10, you should have a total of 116 stitches. Now, what we're going to do next is separate the legs. So to do this, I'm going to knit 24. That's 1, 20, 21, 22. Remove that stitch marker. 23, 24. I have 24 stitches here. Now remove the next 10 stitches, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, and place them on hold. So use some waste yarn and a yarn needle to remove the next 10 stitches. Now we're going to remove the next 48 stitches, and this is going to be for the second leg. So with the yarn needle and some extra yarn here, just remove the next 48 stitches. "46, remove that stitch marker and remove the next 2 stitches. So that's 48 stitches here for the second leg. Now remove the next 10 stitches. Now here we should be left with 24 stitches. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24. So this is going to be for the first leg. So the legs are going to have 48 stitches. So to continue here, we're going to continue in the round. Now remove the beginning of the row stitch marker and put it here now. From now on, it's going to be right here, right between the legs. So to continue here, all you're going to do is just knit all around from here on. This is going to be row 1 of the leg. So continue now and finish row 1. I will meet you here at the end to show you what we need to do next. I finished row 1 of the leg. Now I'm going to place a stitch marker here to mark the front side of the little pans. That way, when we count the rows, we're going to count them from this side, from the front of the baby pants. So this is going to now be the back of the little pants, and this is going to be the front. So if we were to look at this like this from the front, we're working on the left leg right now. So to continue here, all we're going to do for the leg is just knit all around like this. And at the end of each row, you're going to have 48 stitches. Now, you can use double pointed needles here or use longer needles and knit the legs using the magic loop technique. So go ahead, continue with the leg. I'm not sure how many rows I'm going to do here, but continue watching. You will see exactly how many rows we're going to do. So continue and I'll meet you at the end of that row. I finished the leg. I did a total of 44 rows here, starting from here. This is the front, so make sure you count from the front here. From here, this is row 1 up to here, I have 44 rows. This part, it's measuring about 15 centimeters, which is almost 6 inches. If you want to make the legs longer or shorter, that would be up to you. Now, we're going to start on the cuff, and I'm going to do it exactly how I did it here for these little pants. We're going to make a foldable cuff. If you don't want to make it where it folds, then just go ahead and knit one purl one for about 15 rows and then cast off on row 16. It'll be the same as the waist here. So I'm going to do it like this. So let me show you how you're going to do it. It's very easy. All you do is just knit one, purl one. Here I switched to these longer knitting needles. I noticed that the 16-inch, they were too big for the number of stitches that I had here. So I'm knitting this up using the magic loop technique. As I mentioned at the beginning of the leg, you can do it with longer knitting needles or even double pointed needles to knit the legs in the round. I'm using these longer needles. They're in the same size. These are 32-inch long, so I do recommend you do that. So here to begin row 1 of the bottom of the cuff, you're going to knit 1, purl 1, knit 1, purl 1, knit 1, purl 1 all around. And at the end of each row, you're going to have 48 stitches. And this is how we're going to work the cuff. When you finish the row, same thing, knit 1, purl 1 all around. So go ahead and finish the cuff, make a total of 30 rows here, and then I'll come back and show you how we're going to cast off our stitches and then start on the second leg. I finished the cuff. I did a total of 30 rows. If you want to make this part here longer or shorter, that's fine. That would be up to you. I did 30 rows of knit 1, purl 1 all around. Now we're going to cast off our stitches. So to do this, we're going to knit the first stitch and then purl the next stitch. Now bring this first stitch over the second, knit the next stitch, bring the first stitch over the second, purl the next stitch, bring the first stitch over the second, and so on. Continue like this all around for this last row. I'll come back and show you what we need to do next. I finished casting off my stitches. Now here at the end, just cut your yarn and pass your yarn through the last loop here of the last stitch. Now with the yarn needle, we're going to join the first stitch with the last stitch. So this here is the first stitch. So insert your needle like this, and through the center of the last stitch, insert your needle as well. And now it's joined. Now we're going to hide this tail end here from the right side. And all you do is just go down this column of knit stitches and insert your needle through both loops of each stitch and work your way up, hiding this tail end. Now work your way down, repeating the same thing. And just do 1 or 2 stitches where you go up again. Now cut your yarn. This part here is done. That's how it looks. It's finished. So this leg is done. This is how it looks. Now we're going to do the same thing we did for the first leg here with the second. First thing that we need to do is we need to transfer the stitches onto our knitting needles. So from the back side here, start on this side here and just transfer all of these stitches onto your knitting needles. I'm going to use the magic loop technique again to knit the leg in the round. The 16-inch that I started with are too long. The stitches get too stretched, so that's why I'm using these longer knitting needles. You can also use double pointed needles. So I'll go ahead and transfer all of these stitches, and then I'll come back and show you how we're going to start the second leg. I transferred all of my stitches onto my knitting needles. I have 48 stitches. So this here is the front. We're going to go here. We're going to start here from the back side. Now I'm going to attach my yarn. Make sure you leave a nice long tail because we're going to use this tail end here to close the gap that's going to be left in between the legs. So to start here, pull the needle from the back and knit all around like this. This is going to be row 1. Continue all around. I will meet you here at the end of row 1. I'm here at the end of row 1. Now turn for row 2. pull the needle from the back, and to join in the round, just knit the first stitch. Now pull on this tail end here so that that stitch is not too big, and then continue all around and knit the leg. Now you're going to do exactly the same thing we did here with the first leg. For the first leg, we did a total of 44 rows where you just knit all around, and at the end of each row, you had 48 stitches. So you're going to do this part here. After you're done, you're going to make the cuff. For the cuff, I did a total of 30 rows where you knit one, purled one all around, and then for row 31, you just cast off your stitches. And that's how we're going to work the second leg. So go ahead and do that. I'll go ahead and finish the second leg, and then I'll come back and show you how we're going to close this gap here that's between the legs. I finished the second leg. I did it exactly in the same way how I showed you here with the first leg. It's done exactly in the same way. Now I'm going to show you how to close this hole here between the legs. So to do this, we're going to go from the wrong side. We're going to transfer these stitches onto our knitting needles. I have 10 stitches here and 10 stitches here. Here's my yarn that I left the tail end when we started the second leg. So here what we're going to do is just knit two together and cast off our stitches. So I'm going to be using these double pointed needles in the same size. You can also use just regular needles. So the first two stitches you knit two together, the next two knit two together. Now bring this first stitch over the second to cast off the first stitch. Again, knit two together, bring the first stitch over the second. Knit two together, bring the first stitch over the second. And do this all the way to the end. Here are the last two stitches, same thing, knit two together, and then bring this stitch over the last stitch. Now here at the end, just pass your yarn through this last loop, and this here is closed, and that's how it looks. This is the wrong side and this is the right side. Now we're going to go back here and close this gap. Here there's no right or wrong way of doing this. The important thing is that this gap here closes. Again, there's no right or wrong way of doing this. The important thing is that you close this gap. That to me looks pretty good. It's going to be between the legs, so you will hardly see anything. So here you just tie a knot. Let's see. Yep, that looks pretty good to me. Now here, that looks fine, except that there's this little gap here. You can always go back across these stitches that we cast off like this. So you get here to this other end. And same thing, just close that stitch there. I think that's pretty good. Tie a knot. Let's see. Perfect. I'm going to hide this end after it's done. So this part here is done, and that's how it looks. This is the back of the baby pants, and this is the front. I'm going to take measurements, and then I'll come back and show you the finished baby pants along with the matching little sweater. Okay, so here are the finished baby pants. Here's the front, the back, the legs, and in between the legs. Now, let me give you the finished measurements. The total length from the top of the waist to the end here of the leg with the cuff folded, it's measuring about 40.5 centimeters, which is about 16 inches. From the crotch area to the end of the leg, again with the cuff folded, it's measuring about 20.5 centimeters, which is about 8 inches. Now, the cuff, it's measuring from the first row that we did up to the last row, the whole cuff, it's measuring about 10 centimeters, which is about 4 inches. Now, the width here of the leg, just the top, it's measuring about 10.5 centimeters, which is about 4 inches. From the top of the waist to the middle here of the crotch, it's measuring about 20.5 centimeters, which is about 8 inches. The hip measurement, just the top, it's about 25 centimeters, which is about 9.75 inches. The waist, just the top, it's measuring about 21.5 centimeters, which is about 8.5 inches. So based on these measurements, these little pants, leggings, or trousers are for baby boys and girls between 3 and 6 months old. You can easily make them smaller or bigger from a newborn size and up to 2 to 3 year size. In the information box below, I'll go ahead and leave you some information on how you can easily make them smaller or bigger, so be sure to check that out. Now, as far as yarn for the 3 to 6 month size, I used a total of 123 grams, which is about 278 meters or about 303 yards. Depending on the size that you make, you may need less or more. I used DK weight yarn. I showed you that at the beginning of the tutorial. So the little pants are all done to match the Elaria baby sweater. This little sweater here, you can find the link to this tutorial in my channel, and I will also leave it down here in the information box. And as always, if you prefer a written pattern, check out my Etsy shop. I'll leave the link to my Etsy shop up here on the right hand side and in the information box below. Thank you so much for your support. Okay, so this was today's tutorial. I hope you like it. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time.